So you want to be your own boss, you want to take back some time for yourself, have a little bit of say in what you're doing day to day. Well, I've got some advice for you, and guess what? You're not going to like it. Intro. Intro? So this is advice for people who want to start something up, probably in a creative industry like photography or video, something that's based on work that's qualitative, not quantitative. Yes, they are words. Not entirely sure I said them right. So what I mean by that is you have to build some sort of reputation. And one of the most difficult things about working for yourself is staying afloat long enough to build that reputation. Back when I was first thinking about starting out, doing this full time, someone that I really latched onto, whose work that I really liked and whose work ethic I really liked was Arias. So Arias is a photographer based in Atlanta. He does mostly like bands and portraits and that kind of stuff. Kind of before there was a lot of advice on YouTube, he was writing blogs, he was writing books, and he had some videos out there. I read his books, I watched his videos, I bought his courses. In one of his books that I really, really like, he talks about how you can break down the money side of working full-time for yourself, becoming a pro photographer, as it were. Zach lays out a concise little equation where X is the amount you charge, Y is how many shoots you can do in a month, and Z is your monthly living costs. You need to balance this equation to succeed, and most of the time people's first thought is to bring up X and Y to meet Z. The problem is you only have so much time, and when you're starting out, you'll have less bargaining power when it comes to setting your rates. For me, it's all about making Z as small as possible, because I don't want to be overstretching myself. The whole idea of working for myself was to take back control of my time. And so therein lies the secret to being a great business person. Embrace the poorness. No, wait, no. JK, yeah, that was a joke. I wrote a joke into here. No, what it really is about is it's about making your initial goals obtainable. Be realistic about your early success. It'll give you time to build slowly, develop relationships, build up a portfolio and a reputation without having to take on that shitty work that's going to make you feel bad about yourself. You won't have to take every single low-paying job. So how do you go about this? This is basically the most subjective part, because the way I did it is probably not going to work for you. But I'm going to tell you my story anyway. For me, the first thing was deciding that this is what I wanted. This really, really was worth devoting a good portion of my life to. And then you've just got to look at the things that are truly important, the things that you cannot get rid of, and the things that actually just happen to have crept into your life. Then you get to decide if things go completely, if things just have to be reined in a bit, or if they've got to stay. One thing that I really didn't want to give up, but I realised was just a financial burden sneaking in, was a fancy coffee every morning. One or two from a fancy coffee shop. That was over £1,000 a year. That's like a new backup body, or a new lens, or I don't know, a trip away somewhere. And then some things just need reducing. So for me, it was getting rid of all those TV packages, the cable, things like that, and just bringing it down, just having Netflix. That one kind of has the added bonus of reducing the amount of TV you watch. Less of that kind of mindless flicking through channels. One thing that had to remain constant for me was I really love where I live. I didn't want to move out of here, so rent has to stay the same, council tax has to stay the same. They're things that I just knew that I was going to have to meet. Another thing to consider is your equipment requirements. Do you really need the latest camera every year? And it's easy to forget that these are just tools that you need to carry on making more money. The more money you spend on it, the more money you've got to recoup from it. When you know that you're going to have to account for every penny spent, things like buying second-hand equipment from reputable suppliers and things like renting equipment make so much more sense, and you start to realize that maybe you don't actually need to own it. Maybe that's just your ego or your gas gear. acquisition syndrome. And that goes for other things in your life as well. Be content sticking with that iPhone for, another year or two, or maybe just live off hand-me-downs like I do. I'm not that bothered. Also, be careful of borrowing money. It's so easy to spend on a credit card and just forget that that is another thing that every month you're gonna have to lay out from the money you're making from photography. That's just a burden that you don't really need. Unless you do need it, then, just be careful. One last thing is savings. If you can save up 3 months, 6 months, a year's worth of bills and rent, that's gonna make life so much easier for you when you take the leap and go full time. And on the note of savings, either keep those savings going, or if you deplete them as quickly as you can, start putting money back in there. Because if your camera breaks, if you get sick, if you have to stop working for 2 weeks because you're not well, you've broken your leg, I don't know, something happens, you need something to fall back on. You need a couple of months rent there so that you're not a financial burden to someone. So guys, let me know what you think about this advice. I know it's it can feel like a little bit of a downer just hearing it, especially if you love your morning coffee, if you really hate saving, if you are the kind of person who wants a brand new camera as soon as it comes out. Maybe these aren't the things for you. I know really successful people who don't upgrade their camera gear because what they've got is good enough. And I know people who make no money from photography who buy new cameras the second they come out. And they're both as happy as each other because they know their priorities. And I think if it all boils down to one thing, it's getting your priorities straight. Figure out why you want to work for yourself. Maybe you don't actually. And that's absolutely fine.